All right, hey everybody, welcome. But it's the VBAdrenaline.com, and it's our PPV semifinal matchup breakdown. And it is Sydney and Darren here from Louisville, and it's semifinal Thursday. And so, Sydney, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Your first chance to be live with everybody here. But for everybody joining us on our YouTube, it's our chance to be breaking it down. We're going to break things down a little bit different as we are live from the cafes here at the Omni Hotel in Louisville. And things are picking up today as we're getting ready for Final Four semifinal Thursday and action takeoff tonight. But we thought rather than do everybody else's take on the semifinals tonight, we would break things down in a VBAdrenaline kind of way and break things down the way we do on the website, and that's our PPV. And so, first of all, Sydney, tell everybody what the PPV stands for in VBAdrenaline terminology.
Yeah, so it's a power value for each athlete, and we're ranking them. I don't want to say ranking, but basically we are giving them a ranking 300 through 0, 300 being the best, 0 being the not so best. So we're going to go through and give a value to every single player in this Final Four match.
Yep. So again, the PPV is the prospect power value that we use in our recruiting for prospects, and we start up with it's how we start with the prospects at the prep level and the club level, and when we assess their power value with recruiting in essence of where they may go, what size schools may be looking at them, what type of level they may be recruited at, who may be looking at them, and their ceiling when it comes to recruiting. And so now we have started to transition now with the portal and giving them power values at the college level. And when the college team starts losing and gaining athletes at the portal, and we are transitioning our PPV to the college level. And so we are going to break down tonight's semifinals with PPV prospect power values. So now they're college prospects, your favorite college players. We have assigned them, our staff, so Mac and Casey back home and Sydney have assigned PPVs to all of the players that will be playing in tonight's matches, and we're going to break them down that way and also explain a little bit about our website for those of you who may not know about VBAdrenaline or have heard about VBAdrenaline but really don't know about the website. We're going to talk about that and how it applies to your favorite teams, and maybe get you interested in that a little bit as well. So here is our semifinal breakdown, the first semifinal of Louisville and Pitt, and our PPV matchup breakdown as we jump in. And so again, Pitt and Louisville, the third time is the charm. And we take first the number 1 seed, and I guess the visitors, but the number 1 overall seed, Sid, and the Pitt Panthers, number 1 overall seed in the tournament, and talk about their impact players tonight.
Yeah, they have such a strong team, and they've shown it all season long. This is going to be a really tough matchup for them, but like you said, this is third time's the charm. So can they pull it off 3 times in a row? They've got such a solid group, especially with all of their pin hitters, Valeria Vasquez-Gomez, Tori Stafford, and Olivia Babcock. Olivia Babcock being a National Player of the Year finalist. So they have such a strong crew led by Rachel Fairbanks, their setter, and Bree Kelly and Ryla Jones, both in the middle, are just dominating forces at the net. Emmy Klicka holding it down in the back row. This is just a really solid squad, only dropping 1 match all season long, which was to SMU, who is now out of the tournament. So it's going to be a really exciting game tonight.
Right. And so with Pitt, that we've talked about all season with them is on that mission. They've been to the Final Four. We've talked about it 3 years in a row. It's their fourth trip now. Haven't got past the semifinals. They're sick of hearing about that. This is a veteran-dominated lineup. They've all played in this match. Nobody new except Mallory Meyer, I guess, who her first trip with DS. The coaches are hearing about it. The players are sick of hearing about it. And it's a very familiar opponent, Louisville. There will be no surprises tonight in the match. And I think that helps both teams. And as you walked around the hotel and just Louisville in general, neither of these teams are nervous for tonight. They're just ready to play. They're just ready to play this match, and we're in Pitt's hotel. They look loose, they look focused last night. But yeah, 33-1 coming in, and there weren't any nerves with these guys as maybe we saw Penn State, who we'll talk about in the second breakdown as we do that. But first, before we get into this and before we break this match down, we want to talk to people about this PPV. And when we talk about Pitt and then Louisville, before we break down your favorite players, we want to show you guys how our website is like this and how some of these players, maybe some of the players of the future, and how you can learn about them when you subscribe to VBAdrenaline.com. You don't get to a national semifinal without some very, very talented players. And that's kind of what we do for our day jobs, is break down some of the most talented athletes in college volleyball and the prospects that are going to make up the future Final Four teams at VBAdrenaline.com. And so we want to show you the PPV system that we use on our website in breaking down recruiting, the transfer portal. And if you're a big-time college volleyball fan and fans of the teams that we're going to talk about tonight, here's how you can enjoy our website and what our website's all about. So before we talk about Pitt and Louisville, let's give you a quick example of how you might enjoy VBAdrenaline.com. So first of all, let's go and see how each of these classes did with their class of 2026. So if you want to go and see how their 2026 recruiting classes are working out, you would strictly go into the 2026 player evals. This is free. Okay, so we click on 2026 evals, and let's scroll down, right? And Pitt, right, is going to bring in one of the top players in the country, Anna Watson, and then there's her PPV 298. Okay, so one of the most talented prospects in the country. Now, Anna has a player profile with us, so you click on that. And if you have a membership with us, you click on her profile and you read all about Anna Watson, one of the top players in the country. See her resume, where she camped at, okay? And you can also see her national awards, where she's been, where she's camped. You can see her top testing scores, how they rank nationally, and then some of her career highlights as well. So learn all about Anna Watson. And y'all know you're going to love her in Pittsburgh next year. So there's one of their recruits. And keep scrolling down. Let's see where we find, as we go back to the class of 26, let's find somebody else from those classes. We keep going down. There's another one of the top setters in the country as well. Part of that Pitt class, Isabella Hoppy. And Isabella as well has a player profile with us, PPV of 278 incoming. Okay, so there's her camp resume. Very busy young lady last summer, along with being on the U19 national team, Phenom, NTDP, Under Armour next. And I'm not going to go through all of her highlights because it reads like a book, but you can see her scores as well. So you can read up on all of Pitt's classes and their incoming right? See some Penn State, Kendall Northern, one of their recruits. Later, we're going to talk about, obviously, Nebraska, okay? And Penn State's kids coming next. And then there's a couple of Louisville's commits. Now, Blair T-Bot out of Texas, they're incoming setting prospects, right? And so click on Blair. She doesn't have a profile, so we're not able to read up on her. Blair can click and claim that, right? So we want to read more on from a Louisville fan or just about their class. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on classes, okay? And so let's go read up on the incoming classes of 2025. Well, now you see that Louisville has their number 1 recruiting class ever under the DBK era, number 4 with us. Again, these are updated in real time, anytime, 24/7. These are free to come and click on. We don't have to have a big reveal. They are any time of the year they're updated, and you can see that incoming class for Louisville and DBK, right? Very consistent, high-ranking class. Ellie Strecker, coming in, Team Indiana out of Zionsville High School. She's got a player profile with us. Let's look at Ellie, one of their middle blocking targets that they have coming in. Under Armour Next, NTDP. See her resume, you can see her top score, right? So Louisville fans can go read on her. If you have a membership with us, and so that gives you a little bit of an idea of what you can see. So they start with player profile when they're in 8th or 9th grade. We update those all the way along, and then we transfer them all the way in, and then when they become college athletes, right? And that carries with them when they go into the portal, right? And they really have a team page, and show you what those look like really quick. And I don't think either of these teams have done anything, but as you scroll down, right, there's their portal. And so for Louisville, great. Nobody declared for the portal yet. Nobody incoming. I think that might be changing here pretty quick. Some good news possibly coming for Louisville Cardinal fans here. But let's focus on tonight. But everybody, that gives you an idea of the PPV system and how we use it on VBAdrenaline.com. Truly the best site for high school recruiting and portal recruiting. So if you're a fan of the team, if you're a fan of recruiting, consider giving us a subscription, follow along. Yeah, so anyways, that's what we do as we move on, and we hope you guys would follow along as we look at move on, and we'll talk about Louisville now, but that's what we do. That's our site, and that's what the PPV is about. It follows a lot of these athletes, especially these freshmen, as we look at Nyalis and you talk about Penn State in a little bit, and some of the Nebraska freshmen, and with Libby Mock and Skylar Pierce, and they were our inaugural class that we charted their way through. And as the classes come, and year to year to year, we'll know more and more and more of them, and that's what we do. That's what our site's about. We follow them year round, and it's been a pretty cool journey. So we'd love for you to follow us, subscribe, but that's where the PPV comes from, and that's what it's all about. And if you're a big time fan, follow us, and we appreciate you. But so let's move on now, and let's talk, Sid, about Louisville before we break down these actual teams. Tell us real quick, Louisville Cardinals, huge sigh of relief, the home crowd hosting the Final Four.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool year for them, getting to host and be in their own Final Four. They match up a little bit differently than Pitt because they run a 6-2, and so they've got Nilese Cabello and Ellie Glock both at the setter position, and then when they're in the back row, they have Reese Robbins and Sophia Donato Diaz up on the right side, both strong forces over there. And then they just have the power duo of Charity Looper and Anna DeBeer on the outside. That is arguably one of the top outside duos in all of NCAA volleyball. So they've had such a successful year, but it's also been a tough one, powering through that struggle of an ACC schedule and already facing Pitt twice this year. So this will be an interesting third matchup for them, but they do get the benefit of it being on their home court.
And so as we move into it, let's go into these coaching staffs as we breeze through and you look at two of the better coaching staffs in the country with Coach DBK and Coach Fish, two of the staffs that we are closer with and have helped us so much. And we've talked, as we hold on Anna DeBeer, we have talked a lot about these programs recruiting-wise and how they have built similarly over the last 9 years, I think, and their rise. We talked to Chris Hoppy today, one of the athletic department chairs at Pitt, about how similar their rise has been and how they recruit the same athletes and how much respect there is for these two programs being in the same conference. But they have grown together and they're big-time rivals, but a lot of respect together. But talk about as an athlete, Sydney, when you think of Coach DBK and Coach Fish, what do other athletes think of these coaches and these coaching staff?
I mean, we all just hold such respect for them and just the dynasties that they've built at both of their schools. DBK has the strong background of coming from playing at Nebraska. Like, she knows what it takes to win, and she's brought that to this Louisville program. And then same thing with Fish, is he has just created such a dynasty with Pitt. He recruits the best players. He doesn't just recruit them either. He brings them in and he continues to develop them, and he makes sure that his teams are successful every single year.
Yeah, and we didn't get to see the slide very long, but those assistant coaches, that staff that we really hit on with both of these teams and these programs are very, very critical. Coach Kellen Petrone, and then I know Dan Mesky and Todd Chamberlain on the Louisville side, especially in CC McGraw that we were talking about. We love that hire for Louisville and then the rest of the Pitt staff as well. It's a staff effort. And the continuity, especially on the Louisville side, with BBK and Todd and Dan being together this long, and then Kellen with Fish, that says a lot about how long they've been together and being here through that rise. But two of the, by for sure, better staffs in college volleyball, and for them to get here. But the dynasty, you can't quite call it that until I think they get one of those ring things. I think you got to have a ring for it to be a dynasty. But ACC dynasties, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. Now let's look at the better players. Keith, player for Louisville, Anna DeBeer, and then Olivia Babcock. And she's not even a Player of the Year candidate. So let's break down. Let us break down. Ooh, hold on just a little bit. Let's break down these coaching staff as we talk about it, and the staffs, DBK, and then Fish and his staff. We talk about the continuity between both of them. DBK, motivational. Fish, what do you think they're known for? Is it motivation? Is it in-game strategy? Is it adjustments?
I think it's just how they train their players to handle the big moments. I would say. Like, you see both of their teams, we were talking about it earlier, like Pitt's walking around the hotel last night. They don't look stressed. They don't look nervous. They've been in this position before. I think both coaches, DBK and Fish, instill that confidence in their players, and I think that's what makes them such great coaches. And then they have their staffs backing them up. Dan Meskey does a fantastic job. He's a little bit more technical and tactical with the players, and same thing with Kellen. So I think it's just a really good pairing for their players.
Well, and one thing we saw the admin staff for Louisville last night at dinner, and as we talked to a couple of people, actually one of the assistants is heading, student assistants is heading to Vandy to head up their analytics department at Vandy, and someone we're going to work with as we develop our site going forward. But that the statistics and analytics that Louisville has used in the past has helped in that game prep and that game planning over the last few years. So it talks about how far ahead in scouting they are. But anything, would you have a guess? I will not do PPVs on the coaches. I refuse, because I don't have a lot of friends as it begins with, and I'm not losing one guessing PPVs on the coaches. But would you give an edge if it came to coaching staffs?
I don't know. I'm not as familiar with Pitt's assistant coaching staff as I am with Louisville's. I hold Louisville's coaching staff in great regard. Like Dan Meskey, Todd Chamberlain, Cece McGraw, they all do a fantastic job, and they all put in the work in their own parts. So I think it's a pretty even matchup with these coaching staffs, and they're both excellent.
Yeah, and I learned a long time ago, one of the keys to being a really good college coach is recruiting really good players, and they both have done that at an excellent level. I don't think you get to the Final Four without recruiting great players, and that makes you look like a lot better coach. So both staffs, and we're staying out of that because I don't want to lose any more friends. So excellent coaches will call it a draw. So as we move on, now let's move on and break down the PPVs and this match. So first of all, let's talk about the position you're familiar with, the Bros, and Elena Scott versus Emily Klicka.
Yeah, Elena Scott, she is just one of, if not the top libero in this country, competing for that spot with Lexi Rodriguez over at Nebraska. We put her PPV at 289, rightfully so. She is just one of the most consistent liberos you will see on the court. Like serve, receive, and defense both. She's calm, cool, and collected, and constantly just where she needs to be and getting balls up. So she's got 4.37 digs per set, which is an incredible stat line at this high level of a game. And then when you're taking a look at Emily Klicka, she is also such a great high level libero. She does not have as many digs per set, but I think that also has to do with the personnel you're looking at on the teams. Louisville runs their defensive systems a little bit differently than Pitt. Pitt has their all-around players in Babcock and Stafford, and they're both fantastic players in the back row. So Emily Klicka isn't having to take up as much court in that back row as Elena Scott may be. But both incredible defenders. We're giving the higher PPV to Elena Scott in this situation, though.
Yeah, and this is an area that they're going to have to dominate for them to be in the match. They will have to dominate the defensive end and to have a chance, because Pitt should dominate attacking and should have the upper hand there. Louisville, Scott will have to play amazing and get some help from her friends if Louisville is to have it.
Right. We talk a lot about first contact is the biggest neutralizer in volleyball. So which team is going to show up and pass nails and serve receive and be aggressive from the back line serving wise, that's what's going to neutralize this match for both teams.
Right. And Elena Scott, we'll wait until Monday to have that debate on maybe who's the best at that position. We won't upset Big Red Nation quite yet, but we'll move on. We'll move on. All right, so that's the first PPV. Elena Scott at a 289, and then setters, as you talked about, Louisville ran the 6-2, and Rachel Fairbanks, just so many college coaches told us she's the best in the nation. Give us your breakdown here.
Yeah, Rachel Fairbanks is an incredibly strong setter in all facets. She runs a 5'1", so she's a big force blocking up at the net. That's something you see with a lot of 5'1" setters is, maybe they're a little bit too small. They're not as physical enough. That is not the case with Rachel Fairbanks. She goes up and she's aggressive at the net, so she's helping not just setting-wise and running a fantastic tempo offense for her hitters, but she's also helping in that regard and defensively in the back row. With Nylise Cabello and Ellie Glock, you see them both. They set a little bit differently, but that's just part of how a 6-2 goes. Like, hitters have to get used to hitting off of two different setters. But Nylise Cabello has been extremely impressive in her freshman year so far, and Ellie Glock has just had a great run during her time at Louisville. She's a senior now.
Yep, and credit to Ellie Glock with that being a senior in the position, and then talked about her all year. And Nylise Cabello having the freshman season that she has had to come into a top 3 ranked program and step in, and with her energy and her cool, calm demeanor but bring the energy and I think the spark that she has had. And she's had some big time moments, especially in that Stanford match, where she played so well and was such a spark for their offense, and what she's done defensively on the block as well, for Louisville. Not enough credit on the national end, as I've been quick to point out on Twitter, but I don't think she gets enough respect on the national end as one of the best setters in the country. And good for you, Nylise, and the year that you've had. And I rank her as the second best freshman setter in the country. So there we go. And but Fairbanks, and one of the best in the country, and just quietly goes about her business in Pitt. Setter for the Panthers. All right, we're the opposites, and we'll rewind that just a little bit. Talk about this position, and first of all, Babcock in her second year, and I mean, that's not a bad score.
No. This is one of the biggest differences you're going to see between Pitt and Louisville, and one of the biggest positions that could absolutely take over this match tonight and be the biggest difference maker. Olivia Babcock, National Player of the Year finalist, arguably going to win, has one of the best chances to win. But you just don't see many right sides like her who play that all the way around position and are as solid as she is at every single skill. Serve, receive, defense, blocking, attacking, you name it. She covers all of those columns right there. And then matching up with her, you have Reese Robbins and Sophia Maldonado Diaz. Again, both of those players play a little bit differently. I have been super impressed with Maldonado Diaz all year long. She is just extremely dynamic. Like, she will go and rip at a ball, but then the next ball she's making a tactical play with a tip or a roll and scoring each and every way, finding 100 different ways to put a ball down. So I've been really impressed by her. Reese Robbins is just a big force at the net. She's been huge blocking wise for Louisville this year, but also in the back half of the year has really turned it on from an offensive standpoint as well.
And so when you're looking at it here, you're probably going to, for Louisville, again, the difference might be an off night for Babcock, and one of the opposites to have a career night for the Cardinals is going to be important at that opposite position for the Cards to maybe pull what would really be an upset, because they haven't beat Pitt this year.
Right.
All right, then the outsides, right? That one of the outside two, I guess, position, and with Cherry Looper and Vasquez Gomez, and here first position where that PPV, again, another position where the Cards have the PPV advantage. Leadership advantage, though, for Pitt. This is one of the big vocal leaders on that Pitt team.
Absolutely. Both are just such strong players. They're both well far into their career, seniors. They've both been in this position before. They know what it takes. And like you said, Vasquez Gomez is such just like a strong leadership role for that Pitt team. Charity Looper, though, is the one who really fires Pitt up. She's the one who has crazy celebrations and gets really excited and lights a fire underneath her other teammates. So be on the lookout from her for that tonight. So yeah, they're just both incredible. Charity Looper has had a fantastic year. This has been one of her best years yet. And I would say she just, as you can see from the stats in the bottom left compared to the bottom right, she just tops Vasquez Gomez a little bit in each category. And a lot of that too has to go with the systems that Pitt and Louisville are running. Louisville tends to rely a little bit more heavily on their outsides compared to Pitt.
Sure. And then we'll move on to the big names, the big guns, if you will. And again, Anna DeBeer, who I feel she has to have the night that she has had against Stanford for them to have a chance. She didn't have that last time they met. And then Tori Stafford, 297, again, the biggest improvement for the Panthers this year has been the play of her game. 297, what do you see from these two?
Yeah, DeBeer, this is such an exciting match for her in her hometown. This is her last time to go out and prove it. So you would think that would really fire her up, but hopefully that doesn't kick on too many nerves for her. But she doesn't strike me as someone who gets nervous. She's got that stone cold face, and she's just a competitor at the core. And then Tori Stafford, she's another one for Pitt that gets fired up and lights a fire under her teammates. She has had a fantastic year right behind Babcock and has just been with the Panthers every step of the way, helping carry them to victory this season.
But I think we do agree that DeBeer has to play the match that she had against Stanford, and probably plus some pressure or not, she has to have an All-American Player of the Year type match.
And that's a tall task for her. She is going to have a big block up there against her with Olivia Babcock and arguably Brie Kelly in the middle, depending on what that matchup ends up looking like. But yeah, it's going to be a tall task for her.
And speaking of that, let's move in to Brie Kelly, Kara Cressy. Let's move into those middles.
There you go. Kara Cressy has had a really exciting season. I feel like she is someone who has really progressed throughout the season and just continually gotten better. And then Brie Kelly has just been slow and steady, consistent all throughout this season long. We've given her a PPV of 265, and that's just a testament to how strong she is both offensively and defensively. There's a lot of middles where you say, oh, she's better at blocking rather than attacking. She's more of a defensive middle, but that's not the case with Brie Kelly. She is strong in both of those categories.
And that's just a great word for her, is consistent. Last year, everything just very good at everything, where Cressy may be a little bit more up and down, but offensively, she has had a really solid year and is going to have a big production night, I think, on the attacking end. I would guess for Louisville, they're going to have to come up with some extra points from places other than DeBeer, and I would think Cressy would have to be one of those spots.
Yeah,
it would be my guess. All right, as we move on, there are the split M2s. We got, let me move, PK. Can't skip over PK.
Absolutely not.
And so we go break down our other two spots.
Yep. PK, she is someone who is more of an offensive middle, I would say. She, of course, is tall and lengthy and strong up at the net, but where she really shines is with her offensive abilities. And then we have, I don't think that should say Tori Stafford, but
maybe she'll hop in.
Maybe. We have Pitt's second middle blocker with a PPV of 232. She has had a really successful year, and just as a freshman too. So she has really stepped into this role of M2 for them and has just done such a fantastic job for them. She's got a little bit of an edge, and I kind of love watching her play because she's so fiery and she is not afraid to stare you down through the net.
Well, and as we move on to some of the intangible spots, for these schools, and we just go to the breakdowns of these schools, and the final breakdowns. We kind of breakdown by position. You know, when we talk about the bros and, you know, the serving specialists, we didn't talk about Meyer, right, and Trand, and then we talk about RL2s. Some of the final breakdown actually is pretty close. If you go by average, right, the average breakdown with PPV 252, 246, a couple more check marks on the Pittsburgh side, right? Then intangibles, right? We didn't break down Cap Flood, who has played at times serving specialist position. The home court advantage, if you will, playing at the Yum Center. Though, will that matter tonight?
I think it will.
You do?
I think it's going to be a big deal, and I think that there's going to be a lot of people in the Yum Center rooting for Louisville tonight, even if they are not traditionally a Louisville fan, because everyone loves an upset. And I think that it's going to make quite a big difference tonight in the Yum Center.
Plus, we get that DBK contingent, Nebraska, right? Yeah. Rooting for her, I do as well. The Pitt fan base there will travel very well, and it will be loud in there. It's going to be packed. It's going to be a great environment, anyways. But you have that. I just think we talked about intangible wise, which breaks away from our PPV, that the focus of Pitt all year, and they've gotten away from this a little bit in the tournament, of the doubt creeping in just a little bit, and they didn't have that at all during the regular season, where they've played a little bit tight at times. And Louisville's had that a couple of times, aka Northern Iowa, especially, where if that factors in. Now, what does it take for Louisville? If you get all those extra factors out, what does Louisville need to do to beat Pitt just on an athletic ability?
I mean, I think consistency is the key word. They have to be consistent tonight, and that goes from first contact, controlling the things that they can control on their side of the net, but they have to shut down Babcock, and they have to shut down some of Pitt's dogs and girls who are going to be firing on all cylinders. Like, it starts with that at the net and starts with blocking schemes that they're going to put up. They have to be able to put a stop to Pitt's offense if they want a chance tonight.
All right, and so one last time, everybody, before we leave you, this is our PPV statistical breakdown, prospect power values of the position, the main athletes that will be participating tonight, and how our staff sees them at playing at their college level this year. At the college level, then 300 being the max, and you see a couple sophomores for Pitt, like 2 more years left. What are they going to be doing damage-wise at the college level, and what they're doing when you break it down? More check marks on Pitt side than Louisville. Again, not factoring in any of the intangibles. This is just their power level, how they're playing this year. Scientifically, it gives the advantage to the Pitt Panthers. That's why they're the number 1 team in the country. That's why they've swept Louisville so far this year. We'll see if the science factors in again tonight. But everybody, this is our PPV analysis of tonight's semifinal, and we'll see how things factor in. Again, for Sydney Bryson, this is Darren Tipton for VBAdrenaline. We thank you, and consider subscribing, follow along, enjoy our content, and we'll see you a little bit later with that Nebraska versus Penn State Big Ten semifinal matchup as well. Take care, everybody.